Welcome back, this is Tucker. Let's talk weather. Things are quickly getting serious for the US as the tropics become very active. In this video, we're breaking down the likelihood of twin hurricanes in the Atlantic and the chances that one of these makes landfall on the East Coast. Welcome in, guys. This is a more active update, so we're going to cut right to the chase here, jumping into the tropical weather. And what you can see here right now is our three systems. One is Gabrielle. This has gone out to sea. It's actually going to make landfall in the Azores, which is sort of their problem. Not ours this time, but still hurricane strength. Humberto is number 2. This one has formed recently as a tropical storm and soon to be Imelda here. By the time you're watching this could actually be Imelda, and it's likely to develop in the Bahamas area. Now, the ones, of course, we're paying attention to are Humberto and Imelda. Each will have East Coast impacts, so these are a big deal, and we can actually take a closer look at Humberto right now, which does have a track out. This expected to become a major hurricane by the end of the weekend here. It is more likely to stay out to sea right now, but you can tell this path gets a little close for comfort here, as it does make a track towards the United States, at least the East Coast, and does come pretty close to Bermuda too. And of course, this is just one of our storms. Imelda right here, I'm more concerned about, as it also makes a move up the East Coast. So we're going to talk about the track of both of these and how they will impact the US, and also how they'll impact each other on their paths northwards. Many of you know this, but I am a meteorologist, so the information you're going to get here is legitimate information you can trust, and unlike you'll find across a lot of the internet with hurricanes, we're hype-free here. Just going to tell you how it is. But this one is a more serious situation, so we're going to talk it up a bit because it needs it. And what you're seeing right here, by the way, here's Humberto, and here's Imelda. And what you're looking at are the range of outcomes for each of these systems. More specifically, each of those red numbers indicates the core of our storm system. So it tells you, if there's a big spread like we're seeing with Imelda here heading into the upcoming weekend, there's still some uncertainty with exactly where it's going to be located. Humberto, on the other hand, a little more settled as far as outcomes go. Now, the other thing you're noticing are the brighter colors. Humberto is going to be a strong hurricane. Our model's picking up on that. That's why you have a lot of orange in there. Imelda here, still some uncertainty with strength. And one of the things that we're noticing is if this storm moves a bit slower, you can see some of these orange colors back here. If this storm is still located over the Bahamas on Monday, more or less, it's more likely to be a hurricane, which isn't necessarily good for the U.S. There are some solutions. If this storm is farther north, then, well, it may be weaker, but still on a path towards the United States. Now, as these get close together, there is something we call the Fujiwara effect, in which case, basically, these two systems sort of spin around each other. You're going to hear a lot about that. Everyone's going to be talking about it. In reality, the Fujiwara effect typically doesn't have a significant impact on path. It may slightly here, but that's still actually sort of something that's up in the air, exactly to what degree it does. I just don't expect it's going to be significant. I think you're going to hear that talked up more than it deserves. What I really think needs to be talked up, though, is that as we head into Tuesday, this is September 30th now, we still have a lot of solutions that take the core of Imelda up the East Coast and slam it into the South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, or Florida coastline. So these are areas that are actually at fairly high risk for a landfall. Whether that's a tropical storm or hurricane right now is still a little up in the air, but Tuesday, Monday, we'll call Monday and Tuesday, are the days to watch closely. Meanwhile, Humberto still out here, still making impacts and waves, literally, on the East Coast. We'll show you that in a second. We'll talk about how big the waves are going to get and how big they're going to be when you combine the two systems, but that is still going to have impacts, even though you're seeing it stay generally out to sea. And the good news is that as it gets closer, it gets turned away pretty aggressively. You can see that sharp turn it makes here, and that's because this area out here, let me use a different color. This area out here, you see those black lines tight together? That is a high pressure system that is more or less going to protect the rest of the East Coast and push Humberto out to sea. That's the stronger system, so it's a good thing. But Imelda certainly is going to be a risk for those areas we were talking about. Let me show you what our biggest concerns are right now. Actually, one more thing I wanted to show you. It's really cool. Watch what happens here. I'm just showing you Humberto. High pressure is going to come in across the northeast out here. Watch what it does. Humberto looks like it's trying to make a move north. And as it does, here comes high pressure, just swats it out. Get out of here. Sends it back out to sea. So, gonna be a little chilly in the northeastern U.S. We're talking next Thursday, Friday, the 2nd and 3rd of October, but Thank that cooler, sunny, chilly air. It's protective here. All right, let's get back to impacts. I'm not always keen on showing straight up model output, especially for these things, but I believe it paints an important picture, gives you an idea of what could happen. And what we're looking at here is the European model and, of course, our two hurricanes. You can see, more importantly, Imelda, in this case, is making landfall in the Carolinas. And let me be clear, that does not mean it will. Wherever it makes landfall, though, it will, I believe, look something like this, okay? So you have that compact core, you got a lot of rain, and it makes its move into the East Coast, just like that. After hitting the East Coast, high pressure is going to keep rain in the same spot for a while because it wants to keep going north. But this wall of high pressure, you can see it kind of going like this. And I believe that is going to be cause for flooding concern anywhere near where it makes landfall, because we could be talking about several days of heavy rain. As you can see, the remnant here kind of meanders. So that's my first concern, of course, is flooding wherever it makes landfall. The greatest risk, in my opinion, right now being in the Carolinas, but we'll have to watch that really across any part of the Southeast. Next up, let's talk about wind. And similar to rain, because this is a tropical system, it's going to be more compact, so we don't have a super large wind field. And right now, I don't believe Imelda has high potential to be a major hurricane or anything like that. I'm thinking tropical storm Cat 1 at this moment. You'll want to check back as this thing begins to develop. There may be updates to that forecast. But certainly, I don't believe wind is going to be a massive threat. It will be a concern where it makes landfall, obviously, but it's not going to be a very widespread risk. I believe flooding is a bigger risk, for example. And again, this doesn't mean it's going to make landfall right there in the Carolinas. As we were talking about, Florida up through the Carolinas, certainly in play here. The Carolinas, I just believe right now, are the greatest risk. And you can see after it makes landfall, even though it meanders around, wind is not going to be terribly strong. It'll be windy, but it's not going to be like a Category 3 plus hurricane like we saw last year. And as far as Humberto goes, that stays far enough out to sea that even as its wind field expands, we're just talking about general breeziness on the east coastline, nothing more significant than that. But let's talk about waves, because those will be a more significant concern for a larger group of people. So when we were tracking Aaron, we saw waves impact the entire East Coast, even though it didn't get that close to land, at least outside of the Carolinas, the Outer Banks. But when we have two systems, of course, not only are we going to make more waves, but we're going to be able to push those farther. So here's where things begin. Obviously, we're going to be talking about significant waves, erosion, and coastal flooding wherever future Imelda makes landfall, even if it's a tropical storm. Waves will be impactful. And again, remember what we've been saying, that can be Florida, that can be the Carolinas. It's not necessarily making landfall exactly where you see here. So I want you all to be prepared. But it's more than just Imelda here. This is where Humberto comes into play, because high pressure, while it may protect the airspace, doesn't always do the same work in the oceans. So here's what Humberto does. As this gets stronger, you're looking at pretty significant waves on the East Coast, even north of the Carolinas, onto the New England coastlines here. And these will be greatest as we begin the month of October. So I'm looking at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Look at how wide these wave fields are. I mean, we're talking about wave heights that are on the order of 15 to 20 feet here. At least that's the possibility on the East Coast, because this will be a pretty strong storm. And as it moves north, it widens out. I got a cold. But what we're going to be seeing here as we head into the end of October, or the end of that first week of October, so Friday and Saturday, is Humberto begin to move away. So the worst of the waves are going to be on these south-facing and east-facing beaches. Much of New England will see waviness, but it'll largely be protected out there. However, you're still seeing the ocean churned up, and that's sort of the result of having two storms out there. So, reasonably significant erosion is possible, especially along the Carolinas, and it will take some time for the ocean waters to calm down on the East Coast, at least if you're south of New England. And these are going to be the impacts regardless of Humberto. Obviously, it's not going to make landfall, but regardless of it getting close or not, waves will be a concern in both scenarios. So effectively, you're probably going to be watching this video Friday morning. We still have until early next week before this storm's landfall is expected, and we're just talking about Imelda here. So in the meantime, you should be preparing at this point just in case, and watching the forecast closely. By preparing, obviously listen to all guidelines from local officials. I don't think there's going to be evacuations, but if there are, please listen to those. It's not a storm right now that screams board up your windows to me, but hey, you know, if you want to buy wood, buy it now just in case. And if you don't use it, maybe you'll need it for another one. Not a storm to freak out about, but one to take very seriously. We're still talking about what could be a weak hurricane landfall, and I hate saying weak hurricane. That just means category 1 or 2. It may even be a tropical storm. More importantly, though, make sure you have a plan for flooding. You know, we don't want any, inland areas being caught off guard by how much rain may fall. And you really need to have a plan in case there is a flash flood warning near where you are. Think about where higher ground would be and make sure you have a way to get those emergency alerts. That's the most important thing, in my opinion, here. It's the flooding I'm most concerned about. With Humberto and the waves on the East Coast, if you know there's flooding where you are on the coastline or erosion, be mindful of that, although Humberto luckily does stay out to sea. So it's Imelda that's our biggest concern here. And we'll be watching that, and you should be too. Make sure you have a good source for information as we continue to get updates on the storm. Didn't want to end the video without a fall foliage update too, and we've seen some changes. So you can see here in the Rocky Mountains, we have areas of peak foliage. Those are your higher elevations, of course, but we're seeing a lot more even outside the mountains, especially as you look towards the northeast. That's low color coming to a lot of the region. It's coming early this year too, those fall colors, but I'll also add in New England and across a lot of the northwestern U.S., these colors, unfortunately, are a little bit muted this year. It's because of the drought. So the best colors may actually end up being somewhere out here where we're beginning to see peak foliage in the north central U.S. Nonetheless, colors are changing. I mean, look at low color all the way into Missouri already. That's pretty good. And the forecast aspect of this, well, you can see for yourself where we have some of the warmer and colder weather over the next few weeks. And kind of spoiler alert, we're looking at warmer weather than average, relative to average across a lot of the northern U.S. here. So may slow down how quickly those colors change, but the Northeast, as we begin the month of October, a good candidate for at least some colder than average weather for a time. That may speed things up as we begin the month of October. And that's all I got for you this time. So hopefully you get something out of this forecast. If you have any questions and, any special forecast requests, you can always drop those in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from, especially if you made it this far. And I'll be sure to see you right back here with important updates next time.